Hi guys, so this is your video assignment for module number 5, and what you're gonna do here is talk about a time when you had to do research in your own actual life. So outside of school, this isn't for a paper or anything, this is some kind of research that you had to do. Maybe it was finding an apartment, figuring out what school to go to, maybe figuring out where to eat, what video game to buy. Any of those kinds of things could be subjects that you used for this. I'm going to give you guys an example from my own actual life. What I'm going to talk about is a time when I had to buy a car. So number one, describe the situation. Why did you need to conduct research? What did you find? What did you need to find out? State the challenges as a question that you needed to answer. So I needed to know what was the best car for me to buy, and where to get it from. Question mark. So, yeah, I needed to find a reliable car. My car that I had at the time was breaking down constantly. It would die at stoplights. I kept bringing it into repair shops to try to get that fixed. But it was obviously on its way out, and I needed something to replace it that would be reliable, that would not do that, basically. And I needed it to be affordable, and I needed it to be something that would last for a while. So, yeah, those are the challenges that I had. Who was involved in the situation? Number two. Was it just you, or did the research and conclusions affect others? Did you conduct research alone or with others? So the conclusions didn't just affect me, because with the crappy car that I had before, I didn't feel safe driving it with other people in it. I didn't want it to break down and strand all of my friends. So I ended up having to get rides from them anytime we went anywhere, and so it affected them in that way. For conducting the research, I conducted it along with my dad. I asked him for help picking out which kinds of cars were the best, and he knows a lot about cars, so he helped me out a lot. Number three, how did you explore possible answers to your questions? Where did you look for information? Did you ask anyone for advice? I already said that. I asked my dad. Did you look for information that others had written, or did you gather information by talking to people? So yeah, I talked to my dad, but also I used the internet quite a lot. I first just searched for, I looked on a website called Consumer Report, which is a very old magazine that asks people questions about the kind of cars that they have or other products that they have, and ask them about the experience they've had with them. And it's considered to be a pretty reliable website, and it was a pretty reliable magazine before. And I just looked there to see which cars were the most reliable used, and it gave me 4 different options. So Honda Civics and Accords, and Toyota Corollas and Camrys. And so I narrowed my search down to those 4 kinds of cars. And then I searched for all of the cars in my area. And so if you just Google that, there are, like, I think Cars.com, it just searches for all of the different dealerships in your area, and checks all of them to see if they have the kinds of cars that you're looking for. I found about 100 different ones. So then I tried to find ones that were low mileage, because the lower mileage the better, obviously. I didn't care so much about how old the car was, as long as it didn't have a lot of miles on it. And once I narrowed it down to a few, I used Carfax.com to check the histories of those cars. And Carfax is a website you can pay for. It costs like $40 a car to check the history of a car, and it'll tell you if there are any accidents or any other problems like that. But if you're going to a car dealership that's worth its salt and if the car is in good condition, they'll usually just give you the Carfax because it raises the value of the car. So I didn't have to pay for any of those. They were just there, and you can check and make sure that the car you're buying doesn't have 5 different accidents or 10 different owners, that it wasn't like a rental car. Some red flag that would show that it had problems. So mine didn't have any red flags. It had 80,000 miles on it. It was a 2007 Civic, and that was, I guess, the answer to number 4. What conclusion did I come to? How did I decide on this conclusion? So that's how I came to that conclusion. I narrowed it down to affordable, low-mileage car with no accidents or any other nefarious stuff on its history. It only had 1 owner, so it looked like it was going to be a really good option. Number 5, how satisfied was I with the conclusion? How satisfied was I that I considered all the options? Did I make a quick decision? If time was a factor, was there something that I would have done differently? So I ended up buying the Honda Civic that I picked out, and time was a factor because my car kept breaking down, and it was just costing me money. I was constantly bleeding money trying to fix that car. So I picked this one as quickly as I could, and once you've typed in used cars in your area or whatever into Google, you're going to get ads for that for like 6 months afterwards. And one of the ads that I got was for a similar car that was the same price, but it had better features and it had a better color than the one that I ended up getting. So if I could go back and change things, I would probably have picked that car instead. So how did I share my research? Who wanted or needed this information? I didn't explain this information to anyone except for every student I've ever had since then. But I did share my research by taking people for rides in my car after that and feeling a lot better about it than I had before. Okay, so go ahead and give an example of your own time that you've done research. It doesn't have to be quite as long as that. And once you're done, upload it as a YouTube video to the discussion board, and then comment and reply on at least 3 of your peers.